The date, January 7th, 2024. In a snowstorm with flakes and flurries coming at the field diagonally, miserable conditions, icy temperatures colder than the hearts of most Patriots fans, Bill Belichick, in his 24th season as HC of the NEP, would coach his final game in the 2023 season and what ultimately would be his coaching tenure with the New England Patriots. His opponent that day, the despised NYJ, from whom he resigned as HC 24 years prior, only to make his way to the New England Patriots and begin what many consider to be the most decorated, illustrious, and successful coaching career in the history of the National Football League. A 17-3 defeat at the hands of the Jets, withstanding, that was his final day coaching. No fanfare, no grand send-off. That would come later on the night when his quarterback is celebrated, June 12th, 2024. A few days later, we learn that Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots will be parting ways, a mutually agreed upon separation of state and coach. The conscious uncoupling led to an awkward press conference. The hug that never really happened because supposedly somebody had a cold. And now he's off unto his own, having the time of his life, new love interests, new media ventures, new outlook on everything. We almost even thought we got him on social media earlier this week, which would have been the grandest coup of all. But today, now, as the New England Patriots head in a brave new direction with Gerard Mayo, the 15th coach of the Patriots, we ask on this particular What If Wednesday here on the Six Rings and Football Things podcast, what if Bill Belichick actually never left and was still the head coach of your New England Patriots? And I couldn't have a better guest today on the latest What If Wednesday on Six Rings than the man himself, the creator of the Hoodie Database, who kept track of the uniforms Bill Belichick wore and his win-loss record for 2 decades, and also, of course, my previous partner on Foxborough and Friends, PatShow, and so many other ventures, Mike Dussault, at Mike Dussault19 from Patriots.com. Deuce, thanks for jumping in on What If Wednesday, filling in for Andy Hart today, who's off doing frequency-modulated adventures. I couldn't have thought of anyone else that I'd rather have this conversation with, though. Just with all the positivity that has been surrounding the team in recent weeks with Brady night and just the good vibes, a positive mini camp last week. It always felt like, even though we know Bill Belichick could still be one of the most successful coaches in the NFL, and no one knows more about the game than Belichick, but you literally work there. You can tell everybody what the temperature is like, what it feels like at Gillette Stadium, on Patriots Unfiltered and beyond. It seems like there's a vibe change for sure. We'll leave it that way. What would things be like for you right now if Bill Belichick were still in the building? And then what do we think the outlook of the team for 2024 and beyond would be? Hell, it'd be a different draft. That's one thing we know for sure.
Where do we start, Fitz? I mean, we've had quite the offseason. I mean, after Brady night, it felt like finally we have an offseason now, and trying to imagine what it would look like with Bill. I guess it's not that hard. I don't know where to begin. I think personally, I mean, I don't think totally that different. I mean, you make it sound like we're inside the locker room, that kind of stuff. Like we weren't when Bill was, we certainly aren't now. And there's no question that, the vibe has changed a little bit. And certainly interactions with players seem to be a little bit less pressure on those interactions, and coaches, I would say too. But lots to unpack, I think, especially when we talk about the draft, how they might have approached free agency. Would Mac Jones have kind of ended up in Jacksonville? So I think there's a lot to unpack here, Fitz. You lead the way.
Yeah, I happily too. And I don't mean to make it sort of sound like you've got mics underneath the coach's desk, that you're in the locker room, that after Belichick had a debriefing with Burge and Stacy and everyone, that they ran to you and like, all right, guys, here's the latest the coach is thinking. Here's what coach is saying, whatever. Okay. But I just sort of wonder, like, right now the over under win total for the team this year is 4.5. And that's with, of course, this massive roster and personnel pivot that they've made. Would Bill O'Brien have been the offensive coordinator for this year? Obviously, Steve Belichick probably would have once again been the defensive coordinator, or at least called defense on the game day plays. And we imagine that, like, wasn't it that the rumor was there was a 2-year plan basically to sort of warm Mayo up and get him ready. And after the 2024 season, that likely would have been Bill Belichick's final season. So the succession plan for Mayo looks like it was hastened a year by the team last year, and their inability to, I don't know, score, win, do things like that. Two of the most important things in the NFL. So let's sort of start there. Would the 2024 team be Belichick, O'Brien, and that Mayo Belichick combo once again? Like, the coaching infrastructure would have looked ultimately similar this year, right?
I think so. And that, and based on, I know, we heard from Damian Harris last week a little bit, behind the curtain of how they were kind of viewing the offensive changes. And, I know even this year with Bill O'Brien, it's still, I mean, things got worse. So it makes you feel like maybe they need to round that staff out a little bit. If they were to keep Bill O'Brien, maybe Bill O'Brien can hire his own offensive line coach. I know how things went last year with Adrian Clem, where, I don't even know why, but medical reasons, it seemed like he left the team. And so, I mean,
right.
After the year before with Patricia on the offensive line, so you would hope, I mean, and this is with hindsight now of kind of knowing what went on in 2019 and 2020. And as Belichick, tried to manage that transition from Brady, as well as all the coaching staff. I think if we were to make this case of like Bill staying, and how would it make you feel? Because I think last year everyone was like, well, Bill can stay, but he's got to bring in a new offensive coordinator. You brought in Bill O'Brien last year, and we all know now it things continue to kind of descend. So I think part of the big part is, man, I think Bill would need to allow Bill O'Brien to probably round out that staff and really, bring in some new voices. And, I no offense, I mean, Troy Brown was out, so, maybe the receivers,
right,
that kind of thing. So I think that's a good place to start. And then the second place I'll kind of tee you up is, I do think Mac was out. I mean, I think that was clear.
Well, he wanted him out the year. He wanted him out the year prior. And I have a fun little tidbit that I picked up last week at a Patriots adjacent event about Mac Jones as well. I'd like to share in a minute.
But I would just tee you up. I think maybe something like a pursuit of Kirk Cousins, where Bill knows, at time's running out, but I have, like, let's not spend that first, that third overall pick with a rookie quarterback that, even if Bill was back, he's kind of getting old. He's probably not got enough time forever. So I think maybe that move, like, go out, get a Kirk Cousins. They had the cap space to do it. Maybe that's kind of the next move.
Yeah, I imagine that. So 2024, you probably don't even have Elliott Wolf in the position of power that he's in right now as well. And I think of all the developments thus far, as far as Patriots executive and coaching and the entire so from the play calling to the decision making infrastructure, I think Elliott Wolf ascending to executive vice president of player personnel, is that the title?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. GM still works for me. I don't know why we have to do things extra fancy, but it is Massachusetts. We don't eat the right size of steak. We have to have weird shaped bowling pins. I get it. That's how we do in Massholia. But I don't think basically at this point you won't have had a draft where the offense was weaponized, to use Elliott Wolf's parlance, to the degree that it was. I can't imagine there ever would have been a draft. And Bill Belichick was never blind to the needs of the team as well. But I can never imagine the draft would have been 7 offensive players, 1 defensive player, even though he went guard and defense heavy and special teams heavy the year before. So you're likely not looking at Drake May as the future quarterback. I agree. I think he would have gone maybe a mid-round quarterback, someone to possibly develop, but more money could have been thrown Baker Mayfield's way, perhaps, to try to lure him out of Florida. Or Kirk Cousins, maybe, like you said, you go with a veteran guy to try to give Belichick one final hurrah of a season, because he knew he had a balls-out defense last year, but they couldn't do anything offensively. And the majority of it, as we thought would come to be, was that blame was laid at the feet of Mac Jones. Now, I did run into Matt Patricia, this is what I want to say, a couple of weeks ago at the Joe Andruzzi Foundation golf tournament, and I don't want to speak out of turn and report on or share every single thing I heard from him. Put it this way, at the end of the conversation, I left feeling worse for him than I ever had before. I don't think he's none too pleased with the way things went as well, because as we thought, and you probably heard whispers of, but never could officially report on as well, there was confusion and dysfunction in the building, and a lot of different people who thought other people would, quote, do their job, weren't doing it correctly. Bad attitudes were swirling. The blame game was starting to be played far too frequently. And I'll put it this way, whatever we thought about Mac Jones and his attitude and his want to be coached up and just being an agreeable team first guy, that's not what I heard. That's not what I gleaned from conversations therein. And while people may have been friendly with him and he may have had his champions and supporters on the team, in a lot of ways, sadly, as the post Brady rift, we know that's the wrinkle in time where everything really changed. And we'll see how much changes now with this next big decision of no more Belichick. But the Mac Jones thing did a lot of people in that organization dirty. And that itself, that we'll have to revisit that on another What If Wednesday sometime soon. But I think the Mac Jones thing changed the futures of Belichick and Gerard Mayo and so many others forever.
Yeah, and I mean, it's and around we go. It feels like every time we talk about this, we're divvying up the blame pie of did the team support him enough? How much did he blame? And I mean, I think the place, reasonable minds seem to continue to land is like everybody kind of had a piece in the blame pie. A 4-win season doesn't happen in and of itself, especially coming, like I said, like that. You never could have imagined it could have been worse than what they put on the field in 2022 on offense, and yet somehow they found a way to do it. So I think if Bill Belichick was still here and, was being honest, I mean, look, he had arguably the worst offense in the league last year. So, as much as we'd like to make jokes that, it wouldn't matter, he'd still just draft a safety in the first round. I think like we saw in kind of 2009, the way they got rolled by the Ravens. And then, you saw them go out and get Gronk and Hernandez and, really kind of address not only the need to, as you said, and Elliot Wolf said, weaponize the offense, but kind of an injection of, as soon as Gronk walked onto that stage with that helmet on and started headbanging, it's like, man, this is the kind of energy we need after that 2009 season that was such a disaster. So I would just hope that, I think he definitely would have traded down out of 3. I think we can agree on that.
Absolutely.
But I mean, look, if you're talking about Belichick and then look, and this might be a leap. I mean, but we're playing fantasy land. But if you're talking about Kirk Cousins with Malik Neighbors, and Bill Belichick coming back with his hands in the defense, I think it's hard to get back. I mean, look, that was bad last year. We know that everybody kind of was pointing their, pistols at everybody else. And I mean, it was just not a great environment. So it's hard to really, realistically say, even with kind of some young talent, that they were going to turn it around. But it's not that hard to see how they could have spent some cap space on a quarterback and use some drafting on a receiver. But again, we probably still be at the exact same point we're at right now, which is talking about the offensive line and, can they protect the quarterback, no matter if it was Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, or Jacoby Brissett and Drake May.
Dude, all of a sudden now, so this makes complete sense. So now New England Patriots fans, as we're all excited, and I had Andrew Callahan on the podcast yesterday, and we just sort of did a reset post Tom Brady night state of affairs, like where are the players, what's going on with rookies and veterans until minicamp begins, of course, at the tail end of July. And also, if anyone listens to this as well, and Deuce, I'm sure when you have some lazy beach reading, because I know you have a couple days off from Patriots.com, and we thank you for joining us again this morning for What If Wednesday. Callahan has a great piece in the Herald this morning. He just did a profile piece on David Andrews. He went fishing with him and just got his perspective on what happened, what went wrong, where things are headed, how he's doing, his mental state right now, why he decided to come back. And Callahan was telling me yesterday, he's like, man, there's nothing quite like just shotgunning beers and doing Dr. McGillicuddy shots at 6 a.m. with David Andrews and going fit. Like you want to run with the big dogs, man. You better be ready. But it's a great piece. Check it out for sure. We were talking about that, even though we know this season, like 5-6 wins would be outrageously good and above a lot of expectations, maybe we were speculating on when Drake May starts and the general optimism that is surrounding the team, even though this may be a growing pain season looking forward, right? You tell me now, all of a sudden, Belichick tightens the reins on the defense a little bit more, and all of a sudden it's Kirk Cousins, it's Malik Neighbors, they draft a left tackle, and they kind of plug it. Like, I'd watch that team. I imagine that if like Belichick's like, nope, I'm going to get this guy, and this is going to be the QB with which I make my last stand as HC of the NEP, and Malik Neighbors, like, I don't know. I actually like the win. I'll tell you this. I think the win total expectation for these Patriots this year would be higher. Now, going forward, would we be as optimistic like people are thinking that Polk and Javon Baker, possibly an extended Ramondre Stevenson, and of course, Drake May? Like, I think the future may be brighter, but the now would be more potentially
Yeah.
watchable and victorious.
Yeah, and it's easy for you and I to sit here from Cape Cod and be like, if Bill Belichick would just totally change his ways, it would have been great. Like, I mean, it's still, of course, he's not ever gonna
Such
do
a
what he did.
malleable personality.
I know, and that's what you can't help but say is there part of him that just continues to kind of beat the same drum and say, well, we're going to get rid of Judon now. We're going to go and flip him and we'll draft another guy and Doug, we're going to let Duggar walk. And I think that's another point we should probably talk about is would he have given all those contracts out to Onwenu, to Duggar, to Barmore? I mean, the 3-year deal for Anthony Jennings for like $4 million, like that. Yes, that is a Bill Belichick deal through and through, a value edge deal for, a really good run stopper and, tough presence. Like, absolutely. But
he doesn't let Miles Bryant walk. Miles Bryant is
no, Miles Bryant is still in the league. But it's hard to really project. I mean, I can't really make a compelling case to say that Belichick would have extended any of those guys, even to Barmore. I mean, certainly not Duggar, who seems like they kind of wanted to put Mapu in there. And Onwenu's already back to right guard. So, I mean, you had a couple guards last year. So I don't know. It's maybe Barmore, but that's a huge deal. And, it's not like he's the perfect kind of Belichick player either. So I just don't know how many of those extensions actually would have happened.
Yeah. So now we're talking the defensive line could have looked different. The secondary would have looked different. Maybe Bill throws some money at a corner to play opposite Christian Gonzalez. Maybe he brings Stephon Gilmore very well could be back, or maybe he would have traded for Snead, which was a move I would have loved if the Pats made this offseason. Everything would look very different, both in the immediate and in the long term as well. And I think just, let's go back to like something that's unquantifiable and, an intangible, just the general overall feel, mood, and vibe of everything. Again, like we said, like there's optimism building. I know internally now everything's a little easier. You don't have to like worry about saying something and turn around the corner and just, like, oh, sorry, coach. I mean, Bill, Mr. Belichick, please don't kill me. And that's not to say that everything he did didn't work, because we saw the amazing reception the guy got last week at Tom Brady night as well. The adulation, love, and appreciation for Bill Belichick will run for decades in Pats Nation and regionally as well, Deuce. But it really did just feel like, and I know fans don't want to hear this, but it just felt like it was even if the man can still coach at the highest level, which we believe he can, didn't it just feel like it was time?
I mean, ultimately, yes. And I mean, I felt that way at the time. And I think the more that you kind of heard, with the dynasty and Damian Harris, and it's just, I think the beautiful part of coming out of Brady night was like, we could stop focusing on the last few years and just kind of appreciate the 18 or whatever it was years that were, continually pretty much awesome. And that's what's hard. It's like, you feel like you're kind of like, oh, it was time. And, can you say that without being, is it disrespectful to everything that the guy did, even though at the end, it didn't really seem like the team really was buying in. It didn't really seem like the coaching staff was in position to kind of put his message into place anymore. And it seems like he kind of, resigned to within himself. And, kind of like Damian Harris said, it felt like, if everybody just does what I'll tell them, it'll be fine. It's easier said than done, though, communicating that message and getting, kind of the modern athletes to, respond to that message. And, I think, in my opinion, what you saw at the end of last year was, not a team with just, not a lot of fight left in it. I mean, certainly they were going out there and playing, and, games like the Denver game it was close, and, they were able to make some plays at the end, and, guys on defense are playing hard. But by that time, it was so dysfunctional, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that in the NFL, you're a 4-win team now. And it's just, that's what I think is most interesting to me is what would the change be? Because we know what Bill historically was like after just a loss. In general, it was miserable, right? Like, I mean, he is, there early, and it's, oh my God, you lose 2 games in a row. It's, you're terrified to even be in there. I mean,
Eggshell
what's it like in the
City.
offseason of 4? Yeah. I mean, what's an offseason like with 4 wins? And I mean, that's, I mean, he said it himself. You are what your record tells you are. So, coming out of the season, they were a 4-win team. if he didn't really kind of like look at what had happened over the last few years and make some kind of dramatic changes, it's hard to see even like, you know, the dream Kirk Cousins, like even then, would it have really turned around in a way that in the next couple of years, they're going to be back in Super Bowl contention? It's hard to see.
Yeah, eventually you still would have to rip the Band-Aid off and replace the coach because he couldn't coach forever. We all thought this would have been the last year because we knew the plan was being behind the scenes, if you will, to replace him with Mayo. That's why there was no interest and no interviews really with any other coordinators, with any other coaches. I think I feel comfortable saying that while, again, the appreciation, respect, and gratitude for him is profound and will resonate forever, basically, as long as the tale of Belichick is told in Pat's Nation, you may feel a little bit better a mini civil war on social media because now it's the why'd you get rid of him? He's so great. Now we went woke. I don't like the way the team is going. And then there are those of us that are excited about it and think that in the long run, it will be changed for the positive. And it's just going to take time. You would have people saying, come on, he's still old. Oh, we're not going to have any offense. Like you're never going to please everyone. And I know that's how this works out. So I think my grand takeaway is that you may be a little more optimistic of this year's team, but in the long, would you really feel that much better about the Patriots? And we can't guarantee that it's going to work out now as well. But I think 2025 and beyond, the Patriots may be in a better place because they did need to change them a little bit. But and what's the one thing, Mike, as we wrap here on What If Wednesday, if Bill Belichick were still with the Patriots, what's the one thing for what we're saying here about like, well, this will get done differently. This may be better for the players. Different people got contracts. What's the one thing you'll miss most this season? You know, Gerard Mayo's already providing a different level of access. He's answering questions. He's telling you Kendrick Bourne won't practice this summer. Cole Strange is out till at least November. Like, we would never know crap about it. We wouldn't know shit. But one thing that you'll miss most in Belichick.
No question, Friday press conferences. You know, that was the Bill that we all love. It's the Bill that, you know, gives you a little bit. He's a little bit more relaxed. He's got you know, he's willing to talk football. If you ask him football questions, he, you know, opening up and really, you know, revealing things that were, you know, behind the scenes. That's as loose as you'd ever get him. And I think you get that a little bit more now, which I guess is one of the kind of like, benefits of now Bill being kind of on the outside, is that you get a little bit more immediate Bill. And, you know, we saw a little bit of it at Brady. I mean, it's still, I think he's going to be, when he goes with Peyton, I think he's going to be outstanding. You know, that's what's the best about him, is just the football knowledge that he has, wealth of knowledge that, and on those Friday press conferences, there's a book, somebody compiled a lot of the best ones called Fridays with Bill, which I would definitely recommend. But that was my favorite Bill. You know, you get kind of at post game grumpy Bill, or Monday grumpy Bill, or, you know, even after a win, trying to keep the team focused and all that stuff. I get it. But Friday Bill was when it was truly, you know, fascinating to hear him really talk football, a little bit more relaxed, great environment. So I'll miss that for sure.
As a have his cake, eat it too, and also pick the ice cream flavor to go with it type of guy, I'm going to choose to celebrate the idea that I've got a new Patriots to look forward to. We love sometimes, even though I know New England doesn't love to do change, Deuce, we've got a new team to look forward to, new QB, new coach, new way of doing business, and all those things, those Friday Belichick press conference type of things. I get a happier Bill on the Manning every time Peyton and Eli are on. Get a happier Bill doing his downs in the comfort zone that that the McAfee show is as well. We've got the book to look forward to, other appearances. I think it's the best of all worlds possible. So even though we'll miss him on the sidelines, we'll miss all the is what it is and being a jerk to the media and all those things we grew to love over the years. It wasn't quite working anymore. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for all of us. And maybe a year from now, we'll be like, hey, that really did work out. Or, oh God, why did we let him go? That's why people that get paid more money, the big bucks, make the decisions they do, Deuce. All right, joining me from the lovely salty shores of Cape Cod, where I happen to find myself as well right now, our guy Mike Dussault, the old hoodie database guy now of Patriots.com, and entered at Mike Dussault 19. Give him a follow. Chance, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the latest What If Wednesday, Deuce. You get a couple of days off coming up.
Oh, indeed. I can't wait. Hit the beach. Get out of that heat wave. Be great. Try to charge the batteries up. Training camp coming
Deuce
soon.
froze. Well, that's technical. Attaboy. That's right, baby. Get out. No place better to ride out the heat dome than on the Cape. All right. Yeah, we'll talk to you during training camp as well. This has been the latest edition of Six Rings and Football Things. What If Wednesday with Mike Dussault from Patriots.com. Later in the week, I believe we'll actually be looking at quarterbacks. Until then and forevermore, this is Six Rings and Football Things brought to you by WEI, Odyssey, and 2400 Sports.